Yo, what's up guys? This is Reed Young for PokerSprout.com. I'm trying something a little new today. We're just chilling in the park here. I'm on my way to grab some coffee. So I wanted to sit down and review a little hand with you guys. It's from 2+2, the middle stakes and high stakes no limit form. And if you guys want to improve your game, I definitely recommend finding a presence like that, like a poker forum or just a group of friends with whom you can discuss hands. So I mean, it's invaluable. I've met lots of great poker friends from that. You meet up in Vegas maybe once a year, or even if you don't, it's just great to have some like-minded people who are also motivated like you are to improve, to bounce ideas off of. So in this hand, we're playing 2-5 no limit live, and we are $800 effective. So each player has at least $800 in their stack here, including our hero who's in the small blind. So the middle position player open raises to 25, which is a larger size. But you typically see larger open raises in live games, so 25 isn't that uncommon. What is perhaps a little bit telling, though, I think that it could narrow down an open raising player's range to hands that are a little stronger, not as many speculative holdings. So I wouldn't expect to see as many 5-4 suited or ace-2 of diamond type hands, and much more ace-queen, medium to high pair type hands with that size in general. Of course, it's not something you can say, oh, there's a 5x raise, so this dude has pocket eights or better. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it is a factor. So after that raise size, the cutoff calls for $25, and our hero in the small blind decides to what he calls squeeze to $85 with ace-9 offsuit. So a few things here. The sizing is the big thing. The sizing doesn't really accomplish anything. So you're $800 effective. You're giving your opponents You're giving your opponents great pot odds to continue. And if your opponents have fantastic odds to continue, you're really not squeezing at all. You're just sort of arbitrarily building pots out of position, which could be fine if you have exactly aces and maybe a few corresponding bluffs like 7-6 suited, hands like that. But if you're doing it with a wide range of hands, you're essentially telegraphing the strength of your range along with giving your opponent's position in a large pot. Not a good idea in Hold'em. So what I would recommend is a larger size, first of all, because you want to make your opponents indifferent pre-flop. You want to make them have a tough spot when they're facing your bet size. So that means a size something more like 110. And I like 110 with $800 effective stacks because it gives them plenty of room to make a 4-bet if you do want to 5-bet all in as a bluff sometimes and for value. So they could make it 250 and potentially fold to an all-in bet, 240 maybe. So yeah, 85 is just sort of a bullshit size. It doesn't do anything. You give both players fantastic odds to continue against you. So yeah, that said, you're good, man. And yeah, that said, ace-9 offsuit is kind of another part of the hand that went wrong, I think. There's much better hands to use to re-raise. So even if you did make it 110, using a hand like ace-9 just doesn't really do anything for you. It's you're building a pot out of position. If you get called, if you get 4-bet, you might be folding an overcard that is live, so you're just wasting equity. Even in the small blind, I think really the play is just to toss it. So good hands to squeeze there might be like ace-queen and 10s are better, things like that. So yeah, ace-9 just doesn't accomplish that much. I mean, I might even go tighter than that because you're so deep stacked, but it just depends how how your opponents are defending to your squeeze. So if you have an inclination that they're only re-raising or folding, you need to be a little more polarized. In other words, you need to use ace king and maybe queens and better, and I would say that's on the looser side for, you know, getting up to 160 big blinds effective, thereabouts. So now that we have pre-flop covered, which I know a lot of you guys are just like, why don't you just talk about pre-flop for 4 minutes? It's because pre-flop is the foundation for what happens post-flop. So a lot of you guys are just like, yeah, like get to what he posted. What do we do on the flop? Well, a lot of the flop problem is caused by a lot of the pre-flop mistakes, and so they compound. So if you make pre-flop mistakes, what happens is a lot of the time you just have too much going on post-flop. So yeah, that's what happens in this hand. We have ace-9 with the ace of diamonds and the 9 of clubs, I believe. It's an offsuit 9 of spades. The flop comes jack-9 for all diamonds. So pretty great flop for us, all things considered. I mean, we have a lot of equity against really any hand you can name, or a good amount. So how do you proceed from here? Well, first I would consider how the bulk of your distribution, your range, is going to have to react on this board. And I like to start by naming my strongest hands and working my way down toward the middle of my range, say. Stuff that I might not bet. So when you have something like 2 black kings, which is way up there for what you might be squeezing pre-flop, you're just if you face a raise, then you're really getting it in either racing or behind, and that's not what you want to do, obviously. So what's your other option? Well, you're going to be checking these hands like kings, which means you need to be checking other hands, and I think this is such a good candidate for a hand to check because you already have a pair, so it's a decent bluff catcher for multiple streets if you don't improve to 2-pair or a flush. And also, if you do check and call, a turn diamond is just like a phenomenal card for you, because if your opponent has something like queen 10 suited, you know, maybe I'll throw that into the hand replayer here, but if your opponent does have some sort of semi-bluff and the diamond does come on the turn, they are pretty unlikely to give you credit for a hand like the ace of diamonds. So yeah, now that the action's calmed down here, have a seat. So when they don't give you credit for the ace of diamonds, they're going to barrel off into you, and rightfully so, because like we said, a lot of your hands, even as strong as 2 black kings, are going to be checking and calling, trying to see a turn where your equity is a bit better against your opponent's betting range before you stick in all the money, right? So you need a wide check calling range and one that can stand heat on a lot of different board runouts. So I would say let's check call this board. What ended up happening is our hero bet the flop, which is okay. You know, like I said, it's tough to go wrong because you have a lot of equity against a lot of holdings. We might get worse draws to call or to raise and then bluff us in the future. But, you know, I think the positives of checking outweigh the positives of betting, because if you do get raised, you have to either call or move all in. So if you call, you've defined the strength of your hand pretty well. It's not like your opponent's going to be making huge mistakes against you on the turn, unless it's a diamond. And if it's not a diamond, you are going to be put into a crappy spot with a pretty well-defined hand. Your opponent's going to put you on something like black queens and value bet accordingly and bluff accordingly. And then again, the only good thing is if you turn a diamond and your opponent tries to continue and bluff you a little bit more than he should with semi-bluffing hands. So our hero in the hand actually bet out into the one calling player, the original pre-flop raiser from middle position, who, like we said, probably has a tighter range, so betting has even less merit there, because if you get raised, you just hate it. Even with this hand, really, you're expecting maybe to have 40% equity on average with your pair and with your flush draw. Maybe even a little less than that, really. It's tough to say, but I would say in the neighborhood of 35 to 40-ish% equity. So not bad, but like I said, I think checking just plays better for your entire range. So he gets raised and ends up moving all in, which I don't like as well. He's sort of viewed it as an all in or fold type of spot, and I don't think that's the case, because if you did bet, a lot of the time it's going to be with something like kings with a diamond, and if you shove, you're getting called by better hands only, I think. So what you want to do is induce bluffs on later streets, so not necessarily you know, make your opponent raise fold something like queen 10 suited, or you know, maybe 8-9 of hearts, or whatever, or 7-8 of hearts, whatever he's semi-bluffing with there. King queen with the queen of diamonds, who knows? All hands that could improve to worse made hands than yours. So calling becomes advantageous there, and I think I like a bet call if you are betting. But like I said, that puts you into tough spots on the turn where you're checking and then you have a very close equity decision to make. And that's why with a hand like ace-9, since we have middle pair already, I prefer to check call. Something like ace-queen with the ace of diamonds, maybe go for that bet 3-bet all in on the flop. And then add a few other hands to that range, you know, like your flushes, maybe your pocket nines if you are re-raising it pre-flop, and your hands like pocket jacks. So I think that pretty much covers all their bases. So let me know if you guys enjoyed this format of video. I know it's a bit long for one hand, but when you look at poker hand by hand, I think that's where you're making mistakes. Poker is built with ranges. It's built with foundations, and instead of answering one single hand, I think it's way more productive if we discuss the strategy and reasoning behind each part of a hand, and then dissect the play from there, and I think the mistakes are pretty easily found. So in this case, I think we broke it down well enough. Let me know if you guys disagree with anything I'm saying, or you know, just shoot me a question in the comment section, and we'll take it from there. So hope you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you like it, and see you in the next one.